Right, let's move on now. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida have now announced a slew of measures to bolster their strategic partnership. Both the leaders have inked memorandum of understandings which will now bring in investment worth some $42 billion in India in the next 5 years in various sectors such as defence, security and energy. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the India-Japan partnership, calling it crucial for an open and free Indo-Pacific. Listen in.
जियोपॉलिटिकल घटनाएं भी नई चुनौतियां प्रस्तुत कर रही हैं। इस संदर्भ में भारत जापान पार्टनरशिप को और गहन करना सिर्फ दोनों देशों के लिए ही महत्वपूर्ण नहीं है, इससे इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र और पूरे विश्व के स्तर पर भी पीस, प्रॉस्पेरिटी और स्टेबिलिटी को प्रोत्साहन मिलेगा।
Japanese Prime Minister Kishida reiterated the common values shared by both the nations. The Japanese Premier stressed on the need to strengthen the Quad and promised to arrange 2+2 meetings between the two countries' foreign and defence ministers at the earliest. Both the leaders also discussed the Russian invasion of Ukraine, a topic that dominated discussions to a large extent. Prime Minister Kishida urged for immediate cessation of violence in Kyiv, Ukrainian capital, and called on both the nations to declare a truce through dialogue. Prime Minister Kishida also said that Japan will continue to stand by Ukraine and its neighbours. According to India's Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, both the countries have upgraded to a special level of strategic and global partnership, guided by strong political will.
Both leaders concurred that our defence and security ties have strengthened over the last few years, and we are increasingly comfortable in engaging with each other, with other like-minded partners in various regional and multilateral fora for achieving our shared objectives.
It's important to note that this is the second such in-person meeting between the two leaders after both of them met last year on the sidelines of the Glasgow Climate Summit. This is the first visit by any Japanese Prime Minister to India in 4.5 years. India and Japan, which have been traditional partners, have deepened their strategic ties over time, working towards a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Strategic investments in the areas of security and defence in the modern era were also discussed, and Kishida and Prime Minister Modi have also now agreed to convene a 2+2 meeting between the two nations' foreign and defence ministers at the earliest. Meanwhile, later this year, Prime Minister Modi is expected to visit Japan for the second Quad in-person summit. And the Quad, the grouping involving India, the US, Australia, Japan, is now evolving fast amid the Chinese aggressive actions in the Indo-Pacific. Now, for more details about this meeting, our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibil has sent us these details in this next report coming in from the Indian capital. Take a look.
Important meeting between the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Japanese Prime Minister here in Delhi as part of the 14th India-Japan Annual Summit. Key focus area was on the Quad, on the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the investment bit. When it comes to investment, the Japanese, of course, announcing 5 trillion yen of investment over 5 years here in India. That is, of course, music to ear. And, of course, the Indian side inviting the Japanese companies, the Indian Prime Minister talking about reforms being taken by the Indian government. And of course, Make in India being one project that has been the focus area. But also when it comes to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that was essentially a dominating factor. The Japanese Prime Minister condemned it strongly and talked about how grave this incident is. That was the word used by the Japanese Prime Minister. And the Japanese Prime Minister saying this here in Delhi is a strong message to Moscow. We know that Japan has been critical about the invasion by the Russians and has imposed sanctions. Well, India, of course, has abstained at the United Nations and is keen for discounted Russian crude oil. But nonetheless, Quad is something that saw convergences. Indo-Pacific, free and open Indo-Pacific was referred by both leaders several times. And the Japanese Prime Minister invited the Indian Prime Minister for the Quad Summit, the in-person Quad Summit, the second in-person Quad Summit that will take place in Japan later this year. Siddhant Sibil for WION, with camera person Neeraj at Hyderabad House in New Delhi.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.